Business News coming to you live from our Refill studio. My name is Nisi Alan. The landed cost of imported premium motor spirit has climbed above the gantry price offered by the Dangote Petroleum Refinery, reinforcing calls by petroleum marketers for Nigeria to halt fuel importation and prioritize local refining. The latest energy bulletin released by the Major Energies Marketers Association of Nigeria showed that the spot landed cost of imported petrol stood at 1,223.32 naira per litre as of July 29th. The price is higher than the Dangote refinery's gantry price of 1,215 naira per litre, indicating that imported petrol currently costs marketers more than supplies sourced from the 650,000 barrels per day Lekki-based refinery. The Miman Bulletin also showed that Brent crude averaged $90 per barrel during the review period. The development comes days after the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria renewed its call for an end to petrol importation, arguing that local refining capacity is sufficient to meet the country's fuel demand. IPMAN National Publicity Secretary Chinedu Ukadike recently told newsmen that there was no justification for continued petrol imports when local refineries, particularly the Dangote refinery, were producing enough to supply the domestic markets. He argued that importing petrol when locally refined products were available only exerted additional pressure on foreign exchange and undermined investments in domestic refining. The latest pricing data appears to support the marketer's position, with the landed cost of imported petrol now exceeding the Dangote refinery's gantry price. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has deployed over 1,000 young professionals into its workforce after a one-year internship, intensive training, and evaluation program. The Group Chief Executive Officer of the NNPC Limited, Bayo Ojulari, disclosed this in a post on its social media handles, describing the exercise as a major milestone for the national oil company. According to Ojulari, the newly deployed employees emerged from a rigorous process that included internships, training, and performance assessments. Ojulari noted that the recruitment exercise reflected the company's commitment to merit-based employment rather than personal connections or background. The NNPC boss added that while office letters secured entry into the organization, the employees' performance during the internship year earned them permanent deployment. Ojulari encouraged the new employees to contribute ideas, speak up, and take responsibility for their professional growth within the company. He also urged them to remember the process that led to their deployment and to create opportunities for others in the future. The deployment comes as NNPC continues efforts to strengthen its workforce and build capacity across its operation following its transition into a commercially oriented national energy company under the Petroleum Industry Act. NNPC announced its decision to employ new workers in July 2024 under the immediate past GCEO, Mele Kyari. The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority has called for the establishment of an African fuel price benchmark, saying the continent must develop its own regional pricing mechanism to reflect its growing refining capacity, improve market transparency, and reduce dependence on foreign pricing indices. The authority said every major energy-producing region in the world already operates a recognized pricing benchmark, stressing that Africa should not remain an exception as investment in refining, logistics, and cross-border petroleum trade continues to grow. The chief executive of NMDPRA, Rabiu Omar, made the call in Abuja on Thursday ahead of the second West Africa Refined Fuel Conference. Omar said the conference would focus on attracting investments into the infrastructure and logistics needed to establish a transparent and competitive West African petroleum pricing and trading hub. He explained that regional pricing benchmarks are critical because they reflect local market realities rather than relying solely on international indices. According to him, Europe has successfully developed the Amsterdam-Rotterdam-Antwerp trading hub, which serves as the principal pricing and supply center for much of the continent. He said West Africa should pursue a similar model to strengthen regional trade and improve price discovery. Omar noted that the growth of refining capacity across Africa had made the establishment of a regional benchmark even more urgent. The NMDPRA chief stressed that infrastructure remained the biggest enabler of an integrated regional petroleum market, noting that increased refining alone would not guarantee efficient supply without investment in transportation and logistics. Electricity investors could face uncertainty if Nigeria's emerging state electricity markets operate under different regulatory standards, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission warned on Thursday, calling for a harmonized consumer protection framework across the country. The Commission also urged closer collaboration among federal and state electricity regulators, warning that fragmented regulation could weaken consumer protection and discourage investment as Nigeria implements the Electricity Act 2023. Executive Vice Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the FCCPC, Tunji Bello, made a call at a stakeholders' engagement on consumer protection and regulatory cooperation in Nigeria's electricity sector, held at Commission's headquarters in Abuja. The event brought together officials of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, the Nigerian Electricity Management Services Agency, and state electricity regulatory commissions following the establishment of subnational electricity markets under the Electricity Act 2023. Bello described the legislation as one of the most significant reforms in Nigeria's electricity sector, saying it had reshaped the country's regulatory framework by empowering states to establish independent electricity regulatory commissions. He, however, cautioned that the success of the reforms would depend on institutional collaboration rather than competition among regulators. Bello explained that while NERC regulates the electricity sector, NEMSA enforces technical standards, state regulators oversee intra-state electricity markets, and the FCCPC provides economy-wide consumer protection and competition oversight. According to him, the agency's responsibilities are complementary and should be coordinated to ensure effective consumer protection. The federal government has pledged its support for the successful takeoff of Caliphate Airlines, the Sokoto state-backed commercial carrier expected to commence operations later this year. Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, gave the assurance on Thursday while receiving a delegation from Sokoto state government at his office in Abuja. The assurance was contained in a statement issued by the minister's special advisor on media and communications, Tunde Moshood. The delegation, led by the Chief of Staff to the Sokoto State Governor Aminu Diko, included the Secretary to the State Government, Mohammed Sifawa, Director of Operations of Caliphate Airlines, Oluwashina Abelese, and the airline's accounts manager, Abdul Karim Abioye. During the meeting, the delegation conveyed the appreciation of the governor, Ahmed Aliyu, to the minister for what it described as his unwavering support and encouragement towards the establishment of the airline. The delegation also informed Keyamo that Caliphate Airlines, incorporated as a limited liability company to provide domestic passenger and cargo services, is scheduled to be officially inaugurated by President Bola Tinubu on August 18, 2026. Beyond expressing gratitude, the state officials appealed for the minister's continued intervention to ensure the timely issuance of the airline operator certificate, a key regulatory requirement needed for the airline to commence commercial operations as planned. Giving an update on the airline's readiness, the Director of Operations disclosed that the carrier would begin operations with a fleet of 5 Embraer regional jets. And that is it on business news. Stay tuned for News Track at 2 p.m.